I'm at the grave, excuse me, of a young lady named Selma Nash, who got married, which made her name Selma Nash Burns House. This epitaph is really stirring. But first, let me read the stone to you. We'll read the epitaph. Selma Nash, wife of A.K. Burns House, September 9th, 1882. Died June 17th, 1908. Now this right here, the fragrance of her sweet life lingers like the perfume of flowers that have been crushed. Now let me read that again. The fragrance of her sweet life lingers like the perfume of flowers that have been crushed. But before we talk about her, we're going to talk about her dad. Here, in a church parking lot, is a small cemetery. This whole parking lot used to be a cemetery, but that's a story in of itself that I don't know the details yet, so I'm not telling that story just yet. However, there's a stone right there that's very interesting, and it's going to be hard to get a good look at it because I can't angle the camera down. So y'all just deal with me, basically. Be graceful as I read this to you. So I'm going to read this stone to you. It says, in memory of our brother B.R. Nash, born February 22nd, 1846, died April 25th, 1902. A brother honored and beloved, a faithful member of the building committee, and largely instrumental in the erection of this house of worship. And I'm going to show you the house of worship here in just a second. Oh, by the way, he's not really buried here. There are a lot of trees in the way, so I can't really get a good look at it. But that's the church right there. It takes up most of this block. This is his grave. Now, this is the grave. There, you got to move the camera a little bit. This is the grave of Barry Rose Nash, who was born in 1846 and died of 1902. So he died kind of young. B.R. Nash is what's on the stone there. He went by the name of B.R., but his name was Barry Rose. And his wife, obviously, is also buried here. And her name was Marie. She was born in 1848, and then she died in 1923 at the age of 75 years old. Their daughter, that's the statue right there where I was just at. See, that is an angel statue, and angel statues are a pretty big deal in the graveyards, and we're going to talk about her in just a second. But Mr. Nash was a wealthy individual. He worked for a tobacco company. I don't remember if he bought or he sold tobacco, but he traveled the whole country doing this. So he was very well thought of. Now, he died of Bright's disease. Bright's disease was a kidney disease. And so I'm going to kind of read my notes here. And it basically says that, I've read the newspaper account, he died in North Carolina after a long illness. Bright's disease, it said he died a painful death. A long illness that was painful. Newspapers back then, you know, if you see my clips, I say, you know, they told a lot back then. And because of him and because of his wealth, there's a church downtown where I was just at, as a matter of fact, that was partly built because of him. And the church was around 100 years, well, about 75 years before he come along. But his wealth really helped that church a lot. And the newspaper said that he traveled to the U.S., which I've already mentioned, and that the company he worked for thought so well of him that they, and this is quotes, paid him handsomely right up until he passed away. I really have a lot on him other than that, and of course his wife. Now, let's talk about Selma Nash Burns house. Now, she was born in 1882 and she died in 1908. Sources said that she was a bright student, and she died in an asylum in Princeton, North Carolina. Back then they didn't have death certificates, so I really couldn't look it up. The newspaper was very scant on what it said. And the only thing that I could think of an asylum, they had insane asylums and they had TB asylums for tuberculosis. I don't think she's an insane asylum, because she had written a letter 3 weeks earlier expressing that she was still hopeful for her recovery, and asked that her books and writing tablets be sent to her. She was a pretty young lady, and as you can see by the picture. And now she married a guy named Andrew Burns house. And now he lived to be quite old. He was born in 1870 and died in 1951. It's summertime in South Carolina, and the gnats are crazy right now. So I'm not winking at nobody here. I'm trying to get rid of these gnats. Anyway, Andrew Burns house. So he was about, well, he was 89 years old when he died. He died at 314 Salem Street, had a heart attack in his backyard. Now, he remarried. He married a lady named Margaret Elizabeth Holliday. And he had children by her. But the daughter, he had a daughter that he actually named after his first wife. Now, she was born in 1916, which would have been 8 years after he lost his first wife. And yet he still held on to those cherished memories. And the Miss Margaret Holliday, the new wife, apparently was okay with her naming a child after the first wife. Now, the funny thing is, when I was trying to look up information on this in the newspapers, Selma Burns house kept coming up. But I knew it had to be wrong, or the wrong person I was looking for, because this was later on, like in the 1930s and 1940s. And of course, the Selma that I was looking up had already been dead quite a few years. And that's when I run across and figured out that he had named his daughter after his first wife. Now, she was quite the social person. She had all the parties, all the, back then the newspapers would print things about, so-and-so is having a social gathering, tea will be served, and stuff like that. And now she just died. She died in the year 2010 in New Jersey. I couldn't find his grave, or else I would have at least acknowledged this is where he is buried at. He was an honorable man, loved his wife, lost her, married again a few years later, named his daughter after his first wife, but I couldn't locate his grave. Anyway, that's the story of Selma Nash Burns house and Mr. B.R. Nash, who unfortunately died of Bright's disease at a fairly young age.
Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.
And when you subscribe, there will be a bell that'll show up on the right-hand side of the screen. Hit that and you'll get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you.